Billions of dollars in PPP loans later, Scottsdale's Blue Acorn is at the center of a congressional probe into whether the loans were made to fraudulent or ineligible applicants.
In an era when the COVID-19 pandemic turned main streets into ghost towns and left millions of small businesses on the brink, opportunity and peril walked hand in hand. For the agile and the audacious, the crisis presented not just unprecedented challenges, but a once-in-a-generation chance to rewrite the rules. At the intersection of innovation and ethical uncertainty lies the dramatic saga of Blue Acorn, a daring fintech startup that charged into the vortex of America's financial calamity, promising to play the savior. Founded by the unlikely duo of Nathan Reese and Stephanie Hawkridge, neither of whom had prior experience in lending, Blue Acorn declared war on the inefficiencies of traditional finance. They seized upon the U.S. government's Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, a well-intentioned but cumbersome lifeboat for America's small businesses, and turned it into their playground. As the saying goes, never let a good crisis go to waste, and Blue Acorn certainly didn't. They shattered records, dispersed billions, and raked in a staggering $1 billion in processing fees, all while operating with a skeleton crew that approved loans in a heartbeat. Yet, beneath the surface of this glittering success story lurk troubling questions that threaten to tarnish its legacy. Did their relentless drive for efficiency and profits blur the ethical lines? Did a company founded to be the antidote become part of the poison? As we delve into the meteoric rise and uneasy reckoning of Blue Acorn, we'll unearth how a brilliant business model spawned from the embers of a global catastrophe became a parable for the age-old conflict between greed and ingenuity, ethical lines and bottom lines. Welcome to a riveting journey through one of the most compelling and contentious financial dramas of our pandemic age. Blue Acorn was founded in April 2020 with the sole mission of cracking the PPP loan market wide open. And it wasn't just any random folks starting a business on a whim. The leadership team consisted of people who had tasted different sides of life and business. We're talking about Nate Reese, a former Lehman Brothers salesman. Yeah, the same Lehman that went belly up in 2008. And then there's Stephanie Hawkridge, a former TV newscaster. Talk about a mixed bag of experience. Now here's the mind-blowing part. Blue Acorn processed a whopping $12.5 billion in PPP loans just in 2021. Let that sink in. They even left America's largest bank, JP Chase, in the dust. Imagine being the new kid on the block and outpacing the Wall Street giants. But don't think for a second that they were flying blind. No, sir. They brought in Arizona-based consultancy Elevate Advisors to keep things on the up and up, or at least try to. Elevate was the guiding hand, advising Blue Acorn on compliance and navigating the labyrinth of regulations. This wasn't just a get-rich-quick scheme. There was a veneer of legitimacy and attempts to stay within the lines of the law. How did they manage to scale so fast without getting bogged down in the financial muck? They leaned heavily on their partnerships with established lenders, Capital Plus and Prestimos. So they didn't need to get down and dirty with loan approvals and disbursements. That was somebody else's headache. Blue Acorn was a lead generation beast, pulling in clients through Facebook and handing them over to their partners. And here's another piece of the puzzle. For their role as the middleman, Blue Acorn pulled in over $1 billion in taxpayer money. That's right, a billion with a B. They weren't just tossing coins into the Facebook ad slot machine. They were raking in serious dough and processing fees from their lender partners. It's like they had a money printer, and Facebook ads were the ink. So you see, it wasn't just about being bold or taking risks. It was a carefully orchestrated machine designed to attract, capture, and monetize a very specific audience in a very specific situation. And it worked. Oh boy, did it work. But don't mistake this for mere luck or hasty action. Blue Acorn wasn't just playing the game, they were redefining it. So now that you know how they laid the financial groundwork and built their billion-dollar empire, you're probably wondering, what's the secret sauce? What made it all click together? Well, brace yourselves because we're about to dive deep into the playbook, the nitty-gritty mechanics of a marketing strategy so audacious it borders on the unbelievable. You see, successful marketing isn't just about throwing money into an ad campaign and praying to the gods of ROI. It's more like a science experiment. You've got your hypothesis, your variables, and your metrics to track, right? But Blue Acorn, they were like mad scientists on a sugar high. So first off, Facebook allows you to hyper-target your audience based on data points like location, age, interests, and, here's the kicker, behaviors, such as online shopping tendencies, or in this case, interacting with financial platforms. Imagine having a sniper rifle in a world of marketing shotguns. That's the level of precision Blue Acorn was working with. And let's talk about retargeting for a sec. Have you ever browsed something online, then see it following you around like a lost puppy on every social media site you visit? That's retargeting. Blue Acorn used this feature to keep hitting the almost clients who'd interacted with their ads but didn't complete the application. It's like saying, "Hey, remember that lifeline we offered you? It's still here. Grab it." Now let's talk about CTA, which in marketing speak is a call to action. Their CTA wasn't just a boring apply now. Nah, it was more like click here to save your business today. It had urgency. It had appeal. It was like a lifeline thrown to drowning people. And man, did they grab it. In one promotional appearance, Ms. Hockridge described the PPP as $100 billion of free money, directing applicants to Blue Acorn's website to find out in less than 30 seconds whether they qualified for a PPP loan. Ms. Hockridge promised potential applicants that, if you end up making it to the login page, you qualify for a PPP loan. In Facebook advertisements, Blue Acorn claimed that the loans were 100% forgivable, meaning you don't need to pay anything back, and offered approval in 1 to 2 days. And oh, the creative, the visuals, the design, the whole aesthetic. Have you ever seen those before and after pictures for weight loss programs? They use the same psychology. Before, you're drowning in debt. After, you're swimming in free money. It's the American dream in a thumbnail, and it clicked, literally, with their target audience. But listen, no tale of daring and ingenuity is complete without some, let's call them, shortcuts. Imagine you're working at Blue Acorn, right? You've got this mountain of loan applications on your desk. Now, in a traditional setting, there's a vetting process. Credit checks, business history, you know the drill. But at Blue Acorn, the vetting system was, let's just say, a little more relaxed. They were telling employees to focus on the big fish, the monster loans, because they were more lucrative, calling them VIP loans, or very important PPP loans. Their internal mantra was basically, why spend 10 minutes processing a $10,000 loan when you can spend 30 seconds pushing through $1 million one? It was like they set up a conveyor belt that only stopped for golden tickets. And because they were focusing on high-dollar loans, that left them with a, well, flexible approach to fraud detection. It wasn't just lax, it was practically non-existent. Employees were told that if it's not extremely obvious fraud, just keep the conveyor belt running. So there you have it. Blue Acorn's strategy was a blend of marketing genius and daring shortcuts, a formula that propelled them into the stratosphere of lending. They combined laser-focused keywords, irresistible CTAs, and eye-catching creatives with a high-stakes, high-reward internal mantra. It was like watching someone bet their entire life savings on a single roll of the dice. And for a while, it looked like they hit the jackpot. Alright, enough of the marketing wizardry and the audacious shortcuts. Hold on to your seats because we're about to dive into what happens when the law of gravity finally catches up with a skyrocketing startup. You know what's crazier than Blue Acorn's meteoric rise and its sketchy internal processes? How about its reputation in the dark underbelly of the internet, where criminal gangs and fraudsters were literally recommending it as a go-to source for easy money from PPP loans? Oh yeah, this is the deep web we're talking about, where bad ideas become reality at the click of a button. We've got instances where people with clear criminal intent were like, dude, just use Blue Acorn or Womply. They barely check anything. These guys were even teaching each other how to game the system, literally writing the playbook on how to defraud the PPP system. And the craziest part? Some independent researchers caught wind of this. Thousands of posts in Telegram groups were all bragging about how they could scam Womply's PPP loan program. Even Womply knew they were a hot target. They'd seen an uptick in the sophistication of attacks and a lot of chatter on the dark web. But guess who was also name-dropped? Yep, Blue Acorn. Some violent drug dealers in Florida were literally using Blue Acorn and Womply to finance their criminal empire. Yeah, you heard me right. Buying guns and drugs with government-funded loans. Cops believe these gangs identified Blue Acorn as the softest target to get PPP loans without much fuss. They were caught on wiretaps yapping about how they specialized in exploiting Blue Acorn for fraudulent loans. You remember how we talked about Blue Acorn's super slack fraud checks? This is where that reputation gained traction, and why it's even more controversial. When you're flagged on the dark web as a fintech with lower fraud risk capabilities, That's basically an open invite for fraudsters to waltz right in. And oh man, this plays right into what we already discussed, about the rush for big loans. Imagine you're this gang in Florida. You're not going to waste time on small fry loans, are you? Nope. You're going straight for the big leagues, which Blue Acorn was all too happy to process quickly because they were lucrative. But let's not forget about the founders, Nathan and Stephanie. Oh, they were in the game too. Imagine playing poker and realizing the dealer is stacking the deck in their favor. That's kind of what happened here, with both founders and their companies somehow scoring PPP loans. Nathan even claimed to be an African-American veteran on one application. Come on, man, really? In the end, what Blue Acorn did wasn't just innovative. It was audacious, bold, and borderline reckless. But you can't say they didn't change the game. They just also showed us why some rules are in the game in the first place. However, the audacity that propelled them to stardom began to raise eyebrows, even among their staunchest supporters. Remember Capital Plus, the big bro lender backing our ingenious, risk-loving friends at Blue Acorn? Well, Capital Plus wasn't completely asleep at the wheel. One fine day, they're like, "Hey Blue Acorn, what's the deal with these insider loans?" They're looking a bit, how do we put it, sketchy. Nathan and Stephanie, not wanting the party to be over, decided it's probably a good time to slide some money back across the table. They repaid some of their PPP loans, but let's be real. By this point, they were already swimming in so much cash, they'd have to be Scrooge McDuck to even notice it missing. Then enters the big guy, Congress. Now you might think a congressional investigation spells game over. But hold on, this isn't a villain's downfall in a Marvel movie. It's more like a complex puzzle where every piece doesn't fit perfectly. The investigation shed light on some serious blind spots in the fintech world, not just on Blue Acorn. Like, should a company able to facilitate billions in loans have better oversight? I mean, isn't that why referees exist in sports, to make sure everyone's playing fair? The whole situation started to paint fintech in a new light. Think of it as graffiti art. Is it vandalism or is it a masterpiece? Depends on who you ask. But either way, it has everyone talking about what the rules should be when tech companies play in the big financial sandbox. If traditional banks have a dozen referees watching their every move, why should fintechs get to play a pickup game with no rules? So, while the spotlight turned to Blue Acorn, it didn't stop there. It spilled over, illuminating this burgeoning fintech industry that's like the Wild West. You've got your pioneers, your outlaws, and yeah, even some sheriffs who are way behind the action. Now we're all left wondering, who's gonna step up and bring some order to this town? The story of Blue Acorn is a modern paradox. One of those classic tales of rags to riches with a sprinkling of some, well, let's call them ethical speed bumps. On one hand, we've got a startup that skyrocketed, breaking barriers, and redefining what fintech could achieve. They had the guts to take risks, and the smarts to leverage platforms like Facebook to supercharge their reach. I mean, that's textbook disruptive innovation. But on the flip side, with great power comes, you know how it goes. The story also reads like a cautionary tale. Blue Acorn made choices that skirted the boundaries of what's ethical, especially when you consider that they were distributing public funds meant to help the vulnerable. And let's not forget, Blue Acorn wasn't the lone cowboy in this Wild West drama. Companies like Womply and a handful of others were also roped into the congressional investigation. So this isn't just one company's complicated legacy. It's a wake-up call for an entire industry. So for all the aspiring entrepreneurs, dreamers, and disruptors tuning in, realize that the journey of creating something new isn't paved solely with complexities and challenges, but also with opportunities to make choices. Choices that will define not just your enterprise, but the world it influences. The journey of starting a business, of bringing a vision to life, is laden with decisions that will test your integrity and resilience. It's not about avoiding the storms, but learning to navigate through them. And remember, in this journey of innovation and enterprise, it's not just about disrupting the status quo, but about shaping a legacy that stands the test of ethics and responsibility. So here's a question to marinate on. Where do we draw the line between groundbreaking innovation and ethical responsibility? Especially when we're talking about public funds and vulnerable communities, the stakes aren't just high, they're monumental. At Modern Coffers, we're your gateway to the nitty-gritty of what propels businesses to success. Be it the strategic masterstrokes, tech innovations, or networking finesse. Curious about the behind-the-scenes of thriving enterprises? You're in the right place. Subscribe now, and let's unravel together the secrets stashed within modern business vaults.